All right, so good morning, everybody. My name is Ricardo Perez, Sector Business Consultant on PSP. I'm going to allow both of my two co-hosts to also introduce themselves. So we'll start with Stacy.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Stacy. I am the sector business consultant for healthcare, transportation, and construction, and I'll pass it over to Carla.
Thank you, Stacy. Good morning, everyone. My name is Carla Martinez, and I'm the sector business consultant for the biotechnology and life sciences cohort, as well as advanced manufacturing. Back to you, Ricardo.
Definitely. And I cover both IT as well as sustainable green energy. And as such, I'm going to be leading our presentation today on artificial intelligence as a tool. Um, Now, what we're going to cover today is going to be on a very broad spectrum. We're going to be a top down look at AI as a tool. And so we want to make sure that we talk about the functionalities and not anything else outside of it, because we can have long conversations about that, but unfortunately, this is not the time or space for it. We can definitely have those conversations later on. And with that, why don't we jump right into it? So I will cover some definitions as far as what we're going to be talking about today and the types of services that can be provided to you through some of these tools. Toward the end, we'll also do a little bit of live demonstration so we can showcase a little bit about the differences and nuances between each one. But this is not an entirely inclusive list. It's mostly a brief highlight of some of the more popular ones and some of the ones that could be beneficial to you should you require it. Okay, so AI or artificial intelligence has been in prominent use with the masses for a little more than 2 decades, I would say at this point. Um, we utilize it day in and day out, whether we think we are or not, on our computers, through our cell phones. If you have smart TVs or smart refrigerator and appliances, AI is being utilized pretty much everywhere. Um, and in large part, it's supposed to improve daily lives, for the folks that are using it. But it's being put there for any number of reasons, the primary of which is to hopefully uh, provide a better use of whatever the system is, or try to speed up the production of whatever it's trying to support. So, in regards to what we're going to cover today, I first want to provide you kind of a quick side by side definition of the two things we're going to talk about. So, artificial intelligence by itself is a program or other software that performs tasks that normally require human intelligence. It uses data and algorithms to identify patterns and learn from them rather than be programmed for explicit reasons. Um, and some of the ones that are more common are just like machine learning, generative AI. So on a larger scale, if you're talking about data and try to collect information, you're trying to predict things and models and artificial intelligence is typically what you think of when it comes to that. Now, an AI chatbot, which is the tool that we're going to be mostly focusing on today, it's a software application that simulates human-like conversations using AI, machine learning, and natural language processing to understand and respond to queries. Most AI powered and uses machine learning and natural language processing, um, but it can also be rules based to restrict responses, can be accessed 24/7, and uses various types of web-based searches to create customer search on websites. Like, for instance, if you're going to be purchasing products on certain popular websites, let's say you go to a Samsung website, there's always a little chat bar in the corner that you just type in. It's like, oh, I can help you, and you can type in whatever your question is, and it'll try to respond. Um, and overall, the idea between these tools is to still provide that human-like response in some very what they'll say is like lower level customer service type of areas. And so it's more of like, how do we get somebody to get a response from us faster? And if it's not a person, is there something we can use? And in this case, it would be a tool. Stacy, I believe you mentioned that you had a experience in something similar with even one of our vendors before.
Yeah, just recently, just yesterday, I got on the phone to call a vendor just to establish a clearer process, and a chatbot answered the phone. The craziest part of that was that chatbots have gotten so sophisticated that even me, who's very familiar with AI and that whole role, it took me about 30 seconds to realize, hey, this isn't a real person, right? It sounds like a real person, it responds like a real person, but it is a chatbot collecting very specific data in order to help me get to the right person. So like Ricardo is going to tell you, we don't think that AI or chatbots are going to replace jobs, but they have become a really great partner in helping direct you to the right person or department, or easing some of that workload from the employees that handle those requests.
Definitely, and again, it's about like trying to improve your daily life. So even if you were to use, if you have like an Apple device, you use Siri, for some items, like, that's a kind of a chatbot, and that's trying to provide you whatever your needs are based on whatever the query is. And so as long as we utilize it as the tools that they are, we should be able to function hand in hand. So, uh, this is kind of a short list of a majority of like the AI chatbots and services that currently exist. This screenshot, of course, is from Wikipedia, but there are other websites that can provide you other types of chatbots that you could either utilize, some more popular than others, and some have very hyper specific functions. And so it's really going to depend on what it is that you're looking for. So, for instance, if you want something separate, like as we'll talk about today, like a Chat GPT or a Claude, or do you need something that's kind of built into a certain ecosystem? So, say for instance, you're like on Meta through Facebook, and you want to chat through them. They have their own internal AI chatbots that you can utilize there too. So it really depends on what it is you're looking for, but as listed here, there are over hundreds and thousands of them, many of which you probably won't ever use, and it's only because you would have to look for a very specific one if you want to try it out. Now, because there is a wide variety, it's a question of which one is better for you. And then of the ones that you've chosen, maybe there are some extra questions you want to ask yourself. The first of which is something we receive, is it better to get a paid service or utilize the free services? Um, the ones that we're going to highlight today have their free services. And although it says if you want to utilize more of its service to get the paid version, it's going to be a question of what specifically do you need it for? Like, why do you need the extra power? Like, why would you need to have that additional service? Everyone's answers is going to be different. Some might just want to use it for, brief uses, and then there's others who have to use it for their own work. And so it's going to really depend on what it is that you're trying to utilize it for. Now, each one has a different model that helps them use the service for what it's intended for. And what I mean by that is each of the chatbots have their own way to do their own searches because it's based on their own very specific algorithms. And almost all of them are either accompanied by one of the more popular ones that we'll talk about today, or they are creating their own version of a model, then their very specific search function. And so it's going to really depend as well if your results from these different searches are providing you the information that you need or the support that you're looking for, which then leads to the final point here of, are you getting the adequate information that you need? So there are a couple of things to keep in mind. Of course, the model is the first thing to come in mind, is that service, being provided there, the one that works for you. But then also, is it does it come down to the prompts? What are you asking it specifically? Are you being too general in your questions or putting in your queries, or are you putting in some hyper specific questions or clarifying questions to be able to provide the AI system enough context to understand what it is that you're looking for? Because most of these systems are designed to learn from your own interactions with it. So if you ask it very specific questions and you have your own profile, it's going to learn from that and try to provide you responses based on what you give it. So the more that you input, the better the output. But because of that, whatever you're putting in, you want to make sure that the information that you're getting back out is both related to what you want, but then also is tailored to you in that specific cause. Because if one chatbot provides a totally different answer than another, and one of them is better for you overall, then that'll be the choice, that you'll probably want to move on with going forward as far as a service. So let's talk about all the different ones. OpenAI utilizes ChatGPT, probably the more popular ones as of late. Claude AI is newer on the scene, but also a widely used chatbot. Microsoft, of course, has Copilot, which is their, of course, internal chatbot to be utilized within their services. Google now has Gemini. And so these are the ones that we're mostly going to highlight today because, as you can tell, even just from these screenshots, they all look pretty similarly. The only difference is in the models that they use in order to provide their search functions. Now, as I mentioned, results are going to vary because not all of them are going to be utilizing the same sources like the others. They can be great though in simple items, but they can be even useful for more complicated questions. But when you get whatever it is that they provides, whatever the output is, please review your information. We don't know about if it's going to be entirely grammatically correct, even though that's what its function is. It could have a different idea as far as like what you're trying to convey. Like say for instance, I wanted to review a cover letter that I created for a position. Um, if there's a specific name to a company or a process that you have written down originally, it might change it because it could be more friendly to like all of the automated tracking systems, or they're reading too closely to what the job description has for their keywords. And so needing to review it and change it up also helps out in regards to ensuring that your own information doesn't get um, swapped out by something that it thinks it wants to provide to you. And then to really put it in again, as far as adjusting your instructions, you can be creative as far as what it is that you want to provide in the prompts, what kind of questions you initially start with versus, again, like how do you clarify it down even further? And so you don't exactly have to provide like the specific prompts right away. As you think about it, as you're going through it, trying to see if there are ways that you can provide information to the system to provide you the better possible answer. That's the whole point of these chatbots, is really to figure out how can it give you exactly what you're looking for. Now, one of the tools, and I will showcase this in the live demo, is that you can customize the way that it gives you certain responses. Now, for Claude here, if you go into your settings, there's a section here that says personal preferences and what should it consider in terms of the responses. And so when you're conducting your queries into these chatbots, you can put in here like you wanted to keep in mind certain things. For instance, maybe you don't want the answers in a paragraph format. Maybe you just like bullet points, or you want it to provide you answers from specific sources, or only read through certain materials and provide grammatical input always. You can put those instructions in here and it will remember for every single query that you provide thereafter. On this screen, I have for ChatGPT, I put in some custom instructions. It'll be different personalizations, custom instructions. They're interchangeable here. But in the settings under custom instructions, I put certain information because if I'm putting in a query, I want it to be answered in this fashion. And so in this specific case, the top one here is like, when I'm asking for like writing support, never write a critical thinking text for me. Allow me to come to that conclusion or have it break it down for me as opposed to providing me just a straight answer or just, you know, uh, creating the answer, creating the correction without telling me what it is that it did. Now, for prompt examples, um, when it comes out, as soon as you type it in, you want to figure out what it is that makes the most sense for you. It's really dependent on, again, like what do you want to use it for? So if we're talking about searching, like I want to search for, in this case, like a certain certification, you can just type that in, and of course, it'll bring out whatever the search results are. And from there, you can further add to it. It's like, well, maybe I don't want it in Southern California. Maybe I want it in Northern California, or I want only spend this much. Is there something like that available? Things like that. Of course, while we're all here, you can definitely use it for your job search. You can always refresh it too because it'll pop up in a little chat bubble. So if you click on it again and oh, this search result was from like last week, you can put in a prompt, update results, with current information. And then it'll just do it again to tell you what's currently fresh and available. Since you can also put in information on your resume. This is actually where I'm going to take the time to take a step back and we're going to do some live demos at this point. So that way I can start showing you some of these items that we've been talking about. Okay, so here we're going to be using Claude. Now, Claude does not have any personalizations or anything like that. We're just going to use it as it is. And Carla here is going to be helping me put in some prompts to ensure this is, what it is that we want to have the output. Now, let's keep it simple. I have a resume. It's in bad shape, but it's something that I want to use in terms of adjusting for a position that I want. So in this particular case, let's just say adjust attached resume for customer service role. We hit enter, it takes it in. It'll parse through it. So since it is a PDF, it might take a little longer. A Word document may be able to read faster. And each service has their own speed. Now, Claude here is taking its time, but it's also telling you what it's doing. Other services could be faster than this. I know ChatGPT is known for that. Even DeepSeek can also be pretty fast when it comes to doing these items. So mileage does vary.
So meanwhile we wait, hi everyone, this is Carla. Um, I want everybody to start thinking about, at least those of you who attended our workshop on resume writing and cover letter writing, start thinking about those characteristics, right, of what makes an excellent resume. So I'm not going to review them just yet, but if you remember them, start drawing from memory because we're going to take a look at what Claude comes up with, and then we're going to critique the results. And just so you know, the resume that Ricardo uploaded was was very much like the bad example that we demonstrated, right? So there were columns, um, the bullet points in the experience section were not written according to the formula that we discussed. And it looks like we're getting closer, right? To getting the results. And look at Claude go.
Yeah, it is indeed going. And this is nice if you're an individual that actually wants to see the back end of things, and see how things function and work. So it's taking everything, as a matter of fact, because that's going to go for a little bit here. Um, Let me showcase to you what we're currently working with. Um, so this is the resume here that we're currently going on, and as you'll notice, so obviously we cleared out a lot of personal information. There's pictures, there's quick bullet points, uh, i- uh, uh, multiple information here that just, could definitely be summarized into one page. Um, but ideally, when it comes to, something that works on a more professional level, as I'm going to switch back because now it is complete, look at that difference,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
think I even saw some emojis in there, Ricardo. And
Either, yeah.
and you definitely don't want to have emojis on your resume. We didn't go over that at our first workshop, but in case you're wondering, that wouldn't be appropriate.
Now,
So go ahead.
yeah, so very quickly is that, as you can see here, it's created what we'll call a chronological resume, modern chronological resume. On the side over here with Claude, it's giving you a quick breakdown of what it did in order to create everything that you now see here on the side. Now, Carla, let's say for instance, we want to now customize this. We want to clarify and add additional prompts to this. What would be something we want to put in here?
Well, we would definitely want to prompt the AI to develop some accomplishment-based statements, or at least help with some kind of template that would help the job seeker highlight any numerical data or any numerical contributions or milestones that they brought to the company. Um, a, a trick that I like to use is sometimes I ask the AI to come up with fictitious data, right? Not so that I can embellish on my resume, right? Because we always want to be truthful. But asking it for fictitious data as an example can help me start thinking about the kinds of accomplishments that I would want to highlight, right? So for example, if I'm a research, lab assistant and I'm like, okay, well, we don't really keep track of numbers, right? Because we're basically just doing experiments, failing until we get it right, the AI might suggest for me to maybe highlight, right, how quickly I can pipette, right? How many batches or samples I can complete within a specific amount of time, right? So that's another way that you can use the AI as a tool. And of course, Ricardo started off with a very like a very broad, starting point. But as Stacy will, elaborate a little bit more on um, coming up, the importance of specificity, right, in your initial prompt so that you can produce the best results.
Yes. Now, while this works for this resume, the only other thing that like I said, I'll put out is that, for preference here is that this is still the free version. Everything you're seeing here is still on the free version. So unless you're outputting, you know, 10, 20 resumes into this daily, um, you might need a paid service, but we would not recommend that because the idea here is to give you something that'll help rebuild or restructure the one resume that you have, or multiple that you have, and you would just continue building on that yourself over time. Um, One of the comments I will make here that I'll remind everybody later on is that you shouldn't be relying on this as a means to replace what you're currently doing. These are just tools on the side to help you build yourself up to where you need to be at and put certain structure for items that are current so that way you can still be able to create this on your own or make your adjustments on your own without having to utilize any of these AI tools.
Absolutely, Ricardo. And that goes back to your point of the importance of reviewing, right? The AI generated responses before you actually use them so that you rely on them more as a tool versus, a cheat code, right? So for example, in just taking a glance at what it came up with, right? I'm noticing that um, in the letterhead, right? There's no space for a LinkedIn link, right? And that's something that we learned is very important, right? We want to add the LinkedIn link to the top of the resume, right? And like we noted earlier, right? The bullet points in the experience section were not accomplishment based, right? They just highlighted what the individual did in the job, not how they did it or what they contributed. So things like that you want to look out for. And then, even drawing from your knowledge, right, in what makes a good resume, right? We talked about making it as reader friendly as possible for the recruiters. So I'm looking over at the dates, glancing at the formatting, and those dates could be right aligned so that there's uh, a much clearer view of the timeline, right, of the experience history, and just little things like that, right? So you always want to give it a human touch so that you produce the best results possible. And I can give an example of somebody that I was working with. Um, they applied for a job and immediately got a rejection. And when I checked in with them about it, they said, like, I don't understand. Like, I've done all of these things. I have all of this experience. Why didn't my application get selected? So then I asked them, like, okay, well, compared to your experience, right? How much of the job description did you meet? They said, I had this skill, I had that skill, I had knowledge in this program. And I said, okay, great. Was that emphasized in your resume? And they said no. I was like, how did you foolproof your resume? They said, I ran it through a resume scan AI. And I said, okay, well, I'm so glad that you're using AI to help you submit your applications, right? There's some AI that is very detailed, right, about foolproofing or at least making your applications ATS friendly, but they're not 100%, reliable. So that's something that we, hope can resonate with some of you. That although AI is very smart, right? You always want to make sure that you quality check, that you assure the quality of it, based on what you hear from our webinars, based based on the expertise from individuals in your industries, your career counselors. Just make sure that everything is up to par before you actually submit it, because AI can miss a few things here and there.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Carla. All right. So now we're going to switch over to ChatGPT, and I'm going to ask Stacy to come on and help me out here with this one. Now, ChatGPT, this, as I mentioned, this has all my personalization items in here. These are things that I want it to do so that I can get certain results. So, Stacy, you're going to help me with just job searching. Okay.
Okay.
So, so I'm going to put in something basic, and I want you to help me clarify it. So, I'm going to say something like, find me a job in the Bay Area.
Okay, great. So as we see some of those listings pop up, um, I'm going to get very specific with this. If your AI knows you, if you've scanned in your resume before, a potential prompt you could use would be something like, act like a technical recruiter in the field of software development and find me jobs that match my skill set based on my resume. And while Ricardo's pulling this up, I'd love to just share a little bit more information on AI with you guys. So AI is actually a really old idea that started in the 1950s and was initially termed as machine learning, right? So that's about 75 years that we've developed these AI programs. And in the last 20 years, we've seen our AI models be able to adapt to what we call deep learning as well as generative AI, right? Things that normally a human would have had to do. But now our AI assistants are able to help us do. So we're pulling up a few more, well, definitely more specific information on positions that are available. We're pulling up salaries. We're pulling up companies that this AI says target immediately, right? So now you can take this information, go to their website, find the job description, and start sending out your resume. In
Yes.
this, sorry, go ahead, Ricardo.
No, no, no. No, I do agree with that. Like this, like I can't emphasize this component enough. Like this is now your newer search tool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then, like my colleagues have already told you, then you can further refine your resume, further refine your prompts to make sure that you're submitting the most competitive resume you can. One of the things that we've mentioned in the past, which is kind of like a new piece of advice rolling out, is that in today's day and age, you really don't have to send the same resume out twice, right? So if you're sending a resume to LinkedIn, but you're also sending a resume to Facebook for the same type of role, chances are the language in the job description is a little bit different. And what AI can help you do is take your master resume that you personally developed, right? That's that personal touch that we're talking about. But taking that master resume and helping you tailor it for the job description and the language of each role. Hopefully that will work with the ATS checks and match all of that terminology so that your resume stays on the top of the pool of resumes that they're receiving.
Yes. Now, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to show you, and in the email, the follow-up email we send out with the recording, I'll also put these prompts in here in case you want to use it or make your own of the custom instructions. Because a lot of what you're seeing here is based on these custom instructions as well. And so, like, again, it's like when I use, the whatever service that's in there, it's like, please output in bullet form. That's why you're seeing a lot of bullets here. If I put in copies of an image or something, it'll distract and read it and then search based on whatever you put in there. But more importantly, as you'll see here, all of these chatbots are going to do this, is that it will provide you a follow-up. Like, okay, what do you want to do as the next step? And whatever you're basing it on, you can, go further into it. If we did a more specific search, like Stacy just mentioned right now, you're going to get responses like this. But if you have it general, it'll give you some general next steps. And so it's more important that you play around with your input so that you can find pretty much anything that you're looking to get. Now, I do want to have time for a Q&A, so what I'd like to do is I'm just going to quickly showcase to you some other chatbots that we haven't mentioned yet. So again, we have Claude here, Google Gemini. It's again pretty self-explanatory. You got Microsoft Copilot. This is just what their view looks like. Now, there's this one that's called Perplexity. And Stacy, if you could, few words about Perplexity in terms of like difference between this and some of the other ones that you like.
Yeah, so Perplexity, as I understand it, has more access to resources or sources that you might need in like an educational setting, right? So Perplexity, when you ask it a question, it will provide you with links to those sources for verification, which is something that some of our other language models struggle with, right? One of the main reasons why you need to check the work that's coming out of ChatGPT or Claude or some of these other programs is because they have a tendency to hallucinate sources, meaning they will provide a source that doesn't actually exist. So what's different about Perplexity is it will answer your question and then it will bullet point out all the sources that it used to come up with that answer.
Thanks for that, Stacy. And that's similar to the one I was going to highlight here as well, called Elicit. So, as it says, AI for scientific research. And so, if you're more into this realm and you need assistance for something like, let's say, something in the biotechnology field, a certain paper, or if you're looking at like watersheds and need, support for either things that you've written or things to write or support some of the projects you're working on, that's what this can be used for. And then Jasper, it's built like if you're going to work for a marketing company. Gamma over here is to help you build content for if you're going to be presenting in an office or you're going to create a website, and it gives you hints and ideas instead. I mean, yes, it's content, but you can utilize it as stepping stones to go further. Everything here isn't truly meant to replace individuals. Again, that's a comment that we can talk about in discussion some other time. But overall, these are all tools. These are things that we can use on a regular basis that we have access to. And again, a majority of them are free. And so what I'd like to do is I'm going to close out with a couple of ending thoughts in regards to AI chats and mostly words of caution. Okay. So once again, and I can't stress this enough, it's not meant to replace any of the work, skills, or effort that you have and have been utilizing over this time. If you've gone to school, if you've been working a long time, everything that you're doing is supposed to be enhanced by these AI tools. If the original creators of these tools understood what you were doing, they can probably make it a lot better. But um, still continue to practice your own traditional critical thinking and critical reasoning skills. I want you to still be able to be yourself, customize the things, and as Carla put a human touch to everything that you are utilizing these tools for. Now, there are data centers that are being created to host all of this knowledge so that these chatbots can be utilized. So with that comes the idea that there is a carbon footprint in real life that happens. It's not just something that we're not seeing, and because we don't see it, we can't believe that it's happening. So if you're conscious of that, I'm not saying that like, throw that idea out and you're just going to use chatbots. Instead, utilize it as a tool that it is, just like a hammer. You're not going to use a hammer all the time for everything that you do. And if you just need it for the few items that you're using it for, great, then you put it away. Or even if you're trying to, put together a website and you just need a little hint, or if again, you're trying to write a paper and you got stuck, you don't know how to answer or provide additional paragraphs. That's what a chatbot can be used for. Just a very quick item. It shouldn't replace everything that you do. Even a website like Blackbox, which is an AI tool to help check your Python programming, it's exactly that. It's to help check it. It's not to replace any of the work that you could be doing. So try to limit your time. And if you need it for multiple reasons, and if you need it for a job, just try to think about reducing the amount of time that you utilize it for. So with that, um, if anyone has any additional questions based on this recording, please feel free to reach out to myself, Carla, or Stacy. If you don't have either of our email addresses, please let me know, but I'm pretty sure you've all worked with us at some point in time. Um, and so with that, I'm going to stop the recording. And so for anyone coming for us next month, we'll see you then.